Hello, Sobs. How are you today? In tonight's discourse, I'm going to share 4 ways to get ahead in life. You clicked on this video because you're lost. Chances are excellent you are broke, depressed, obese. Nobody loves you. You totally lack direction in your life. And you've come to me as the beacon of hope with the belief that after this video, you're going to find purpose. After this video for some, you would finally find direction. That at the end of this video, it gives light to the circumstances happening in your life. 4 ways to get ahead. It's even better if you're in your 20s consuming this content. It is beneficial. In fact, tonight's discourse, I'm going to share things I would have wished someone told me at the infancy of my career. And you guys are very, very lucky, extremely lucky in that regard, to have a multi-millionaire sit and explain to you certain discourse, certain approaches on life. So the first one, the first key, as I would like to categorize, is 100% clarity. This is where majority, including I, urge in this philosophy, urge in this principle. This principle is one of the most crucial as touching life and success. Does your calendar reflect your priorities? Unfortunately, in today's day and age, there are tons of distraction from your notifications to your emails. There's no need to go into extreme details of something you already have an intricate knowledge on. Chances are excellent, you are very intelligent, you my audience. You would notice every single person is trying to get your attention. Whenever you see a new notification, a new pop-up, a new advertisement, I want you to walk in the consciousness that this person is deliberately out for my attention. Because where attention goes, your money goes, your energy goes. And if they can grab your attention in that split second, they have a portion of your destiny. Where your attention goes, that is where energy will be expended. And attention or time is a unit of destiny. So whenever you give your time to some hedonistic activity, whenever you spend time doing something that pulls you away from your goal, it's taking a portion of your destiny. But that's beyond the scope of this discourse. The point I'm trying to highlight is 100% clarity in anything you're doing. Majority of people subscribe to gurus and all of these deep shits on the internet giving out advice. They allow the objectives or they allow the task to determine the objectives as opposed to otherwise. So for instance, they'll read 30 pages a day, they'll go to the gym, they would exercise in all of these positive activities. And as wonderful as it is, but there's no goal, there's no end product. Your actions aren't laddering up to something definite. So you're hoping to stumble on something, or if something happens, anything, you're just walking. It's unfortunate because if you keep operating in that kind of trajectory, it's easy to lose motivation. It's easy to lose your muse. And as a very intelligent philosopher pointed out, I can't recall his name. He said, the man can do anything if the why is strong enough. So majority of you don't have a why. And in fact, I would argue that it sometimes is counterintuitive to first operate by looking for your why. Because at the infancy of your career, the only thing that matters is action, taking action, getting after it. You don't know what you're doing, but you're building brain cells that connote towards discipline. And that's how life works. If your destiny is to become an entrepreneur. You don't start by becoming an entrepreneur. No, that's not how God works. That's not how the universe works. In fact, any billionaire in today's day and age did not start by doing the business, did not start by engaging in the activity that brought in those billions. For instance, I'm a very rich person, and the activities I started at the initial stages of my career was studying the economy, understanding how life works, got into personal development and the various activities that would scale you to this level. If you're supposed to be a businessman, for instance, the first thing you're going to do is not to start business. You start by reading books, you start by serving, you start by engaging with people, either as a servant or a mentee, someone who has at least had tangible experience or is doing something you would like to do in the future. So that's how it works. If you err in this principle and decide to start by doing what you see yourself doing in the future, chances are excellent you might not have the resources to perform at that level, or you make a lot of mistakes along the way. You might say, well, it's better to start and you learn, and failure is good and you learn from your failure, it makes you better. Completely agree with you. However, an intelligent man learns from his mistake. A wise man learns from the mistake of others. I've said this countless times. It's now almost like a mantra. That instead of learning from other people's mistake or learning from other people's mistake is optimal than learning from yours. Making a mistake another person has made, you are the one who's twice as unwise because they failed for you. And it is stupid. Majority of people engage in that activity for the idea of a story. Every single person wants excitement in their life. Every single person wants this idea of a story. My friend, the world is not going to reward you for going through an experience similar to another person. The world is going to reward you for your uniqueness. This is common with economics, supply and demand. Trying to engage in another story, in a story that's already been lived, is going to yield you little to no profiting. Even worse, you have wasted time, and time is not something you can recover. The best thing in order to maximize that situation is to learn from your predecessors and keep moving. So where they stopped is where you start. Explore virgin dimensions. Unfortunately, majority of people do not have the foresight to see and calculate effectively in order to get fame. In order to get fame, you must be impactful. Fame is just a byproduct. I speak so much on cause and effect. Steve Jobs never had to pay for advertising or drive a bunch of exotic cars, yet his name has become synonymous with greatness. When was the last time Steve Jobs said, please put me up on your profile or do all these various podcasts he paid with money? No. All he did was to become impactful and successful. Yes, you might go through the route of influencers and buy a bunch of cars, have a bunch of women on the boats, and you might get famous for doing something like that. But how long does it last? In fact, your fame is now predicated on how much you expend. Is that the kind of fame you want? The kind of fame where you drive a substandard car and it's seen as you are falling, or it's seen as lack of wealth. If Bezos or Elon, in fact, Elon doesn't drive luxurious cars, yet we consider him the richest man in the world. Why is that the case? He focused on growth. He focused on impact. He focused on more on what he can give than receive. Someone who worked hundreds of dollars, a couple of hundreds of dollars in a month as the CEO of Tesla, and now he reaped $57 billion in cash. You must learn to play the long term game. 100% clarity of where you're going, and ask yourself this second question: does my calendar reflect my priorities? As I mentioned earlier, this is a principle even I myself erred upon. So my priorities then were to do XYZ, yet I find myself doing that XYZ later in the day. That wasn't my priority. My priority became things, substandard activities, majoring on the minor and minoring on the major. And it also stems from this principle I've preached years ago, where I say, when you find something you love doing, like your passion, or when you find something that seems like play to you but work to others, the chances of you doubling in on that thing are very slim, because you will see it as play. As a consequence, you're not willing to work hard on something you consider play. You do not see it as difficult. It doesn't give you that expression to exert discipline. Because you do not consider it difficult, you consider it useless. And as my philosophy said, I have this wonderful quote: anything that is easy, or anything that is gotten easy, is generally unappreciated. So if there's an activity, if there's a skill, you find it easy going, the chances of you doubling in on that are very slim. And to worsen the effect, goals as all things, the result is not going to be gotten immediately. So the destitute of result reinforces the fact that you're wasting time. Go find something else to do it. The grass is always greener at the other side. A businessman, an entrepreneur who's supposed to settle on books, who's supposed to start writing the business plan, who's supposed to start drafting things that will take not just him, but posterity to the next level, is trading crypto. Boxing, is playing football with peers who have the destiny of athletes. In fact, you gravitate towards that activity more because it gives him the expression to exert discipline. The fact that it's difficult gives him an opportunity to exert discipline, to exert consistency. Yes, this activity is difficult. Yes, I do not like doing this, but I get up every single morning and do it. It comes from the it comes from an array of the negative teaching online, who says discipline, what you don't like doing. And of course, there's a positive side to it. However, what they omit, unconsciously so because they are dumb, is the fact that sometimes you can do the things you love and enjoy doing it. If you look at the billionaires, the wealthy people, they are engaged in activities they enjoy doing. And in fact, if you observe those activities, they seem like leisure. Take Taylor Swift, for instance. She got paid out $1 billion on her last tour. Do you think she's actually cranking up to write music? Or do you believe she enjoyed every second of that tour? And the peasants in my comment section will go, well, I thought you were anti-feminist and you always debate these dumb bitches on various platforms and you're mentioning Swift's name. Of course, I understand it's debatable, but I'm a professional. And as a professional, you must be willing to acknowledge people's gifting. You must be willing to acknowledge the positive attributes, even if the person in question is considered your opponent. And this is a degree of maturity various people, or very few people on the internet, express, that you can disagree with brother XYZ, but still come along and say, I disagree with this guy, but brother XYZ has a very good voice. Brother XYZ knows how to do point A and point B. It's a very rare trait on the internet space. Most people, once they hate you, they hate every single thing about you. They try and discredit every single thing you do. 100% clarity on whatever it is you find yourself doing. The second is, what's the second one? Believe, right? Hmm. I lost my wording. That's very unusual. I've gotten point two. I'm thinking of point three. Point two, measure what you do. Measure what you do. Don't hope. This is a very interesting point because, like I said, 90% of you humans are caught in this hope culture. They expect maybe something would happen. But my friend, nothing happens by itself, especially in this evil world. This world is cohabitated on wickedness. For something good to happen, you have to make it happen. If you walk past a garden that is well manicured, never do you sit for a second and go, it happened by itself. The garden trimmed itself and raked along the bushes. It's impossible. If you see anything good, someone is behind it. Behind anything that works, there's someone making it to work. So dismiss this bullshit that someone is going to save you, something would happen, you would meet someone, you would go to an event. My friend, 90% of people who are born broke, stay broke, and die broke. That's the unfortunate reality for people. And in fact, if you subscribe to this stupid idea on the internet that someday it will be your turn and some people takes time to bloom, the only thing you're going to end up with is a gallery filled with screenshots of motivational quotes. Like I said, time is the unit of destiny. Time is the unit of destiny. That's why it's called lifetime. Lifetime. Your lifetime is an amalgamation of what you did with your time on earth. At the end of your life, what you're going to be remembered for is your contribution as touching humanity. Do not hope. If there's a skill, find ways to measure it. If there's a business you're trying to optimize, don't say, I need to plow more finances into advertising. I need to do XYZ. I need to do this. Okay, now that you're doing this, I'm glad that you have a mindset. You're orientated. You're action orientated. In fact, that's a very few traits people in this day and age of insanity sustain. So at least you're one step ahead of the curve. However, you are lacking in the degree of measurement. Even the Bible says it that once the axe head is blunt, prepare to dissipate energy. So if you're just taking action without feedback, it doesn't make you perfect. The difference between my first video and the 500 video is not just the improvement, it's not just the consistency factor, it's the feedback factor coupled with action. Every single one of my videos, I would watch it back. Notice times I stuttered. Notice times I didn't vary my words. Notice time. I was supposed to inject emotions and I refused to do so. I would notice the flaws in every single video, refine, iterate, take feedback, make it better. That's why every single video will be better than the previous one. And it's very funny because I don't script my content. In fact, you saw me 2, 4, 5 minutes ago trying to think of the next point. So the only thing I do is point one, point two, point three, point four. In this case, I list out 4 points. What is the objective of this discourse? At the end of this video, what is the listener supposed to extract? What are the lessons he should learn? Alright, what 4 points best explain this topic? What 4 points distills value to the extent that it can vehicle someone out of the life of confusion, out of the life of anxiety and lack, out of the life of frustration to a life of beauty and color? What 4 points distills these values perfectly? So when I pause, as I did earlier, it's not because I'm reading off a teleprompt or I can't see my points clearly. No, I don't script content. I don't think on content. I do not meditate on them. All I care about are I list out a set of objectives which I want to talk about and points that convey that subject perfectly. That's all. I don't do research. I don't spend time listening to other people. No, 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 no. That's why all my videos are very unique. To measure, learn how to measure your priorities. Learn how to measure what matters. If it's speaking, just like speaking, as I astutely pointed out, speaking was something I wanted to optimize. I gave you the analogy on how I would review my video. There are specifics I'm trying to point out. I notice my strengths as well as the weakness. I wouldn't say weakness of things to correct or improve upon. That's all I have. Things to correct and things to improve upon. I only have strengths. I do not believe in weaknesses. Well, everybody, that's your belief. And these signs shall follow them that believe. If that's what you truly believe in. But for me, I do not believe in depression. I do not believe I can be poor. I do not believe there are certain beliefs I do not hold. They are not existent in my life. That's point two. Point three, be competent on one thing, then diversify. This is something it took me a while to learn because I was fixated on having control on all aspects of my life. Like I said, I'm a strategist. I see like 6 steps ahead. The unfortunately or the drawbacks that comes with an infinite mind is you try and compress those 6 steps into one. So for instance, if you had a dream to one day own a bank, to one day own a bank, I'm not saying I want to own one, but if you have a dream to one day own a bank, you're going to spend time obsessing on how to run a bank. Yes, this activity is good only in your free time. Not necessarily should it be imbued in today's schedule. Focus on what you have now. Focus on maximizing the present because it's the present, the utilization of the present that takes you to the future. For as long as you keep obsessing on the future alone, you would never get there. Maximize the present. It takes you to the future. Manifestation in and of itself is a utilization of the future, utilizing your present skills, doubling down on every single thing you have in order to take you there. If you're a musician, for instance, you get into manifestation. One way to aid your manifestation process is to refine your musical skill such that when you get on the global stage, you don't make a mess out of yourself because the end product is readily available. The finances, the fame, the women, the club. But make sure when you're approaching that 6'4" model, make sure when you're approaching the richest man on earth, on the face of the planet, make sure that your giftings have been refined. Make sure you don't go there and stutter. Make sure you've improved yourself. Make sure you've improved your physique. Make sure you've improved all aspects of your life. Make sure. So utilize the present. It takes you to the future. Make sure you improved yourself in all of its ramifications such that when you arrive there, it's common sense. Life is a brutal teacher. It will recycle itself and teach you for as long as you need to learn. Life is a brutal teacher. So if you do not learn your lesson, it will recycle and teach you again. So one of the things you can do is find one thing you're good at, then diversify. I make reference to people on the Forbes list because their life has been public enough for you to glean understanding from. Elon was perfect at coding. He used his coding skills to create a company called PayPal, of which he stole. The millions of dollars derived from that sale were used to diversify both in Tesla and SpaceX. That company now put him the first on the Forbes list. Had he tried to get a normal wage job, had he tried to get a normal job, work at Tesla, hope to get shares, perhaps he would not be in this position of power he currently is. But he used what he had to get what he wants. Makes back or making allusion to my previous point, which is making allusion to my previous point, which is utilizing the present in exchange for the future, using what he has now to make up for the future. What is the last point? This one was supposed to be the last point. What's number two? So find one thing and diversify. For me, my intellect was the one thing I found. Found I have a very intelligent mind. I got into various studies from reading of books to understanding how the economy works. I learned the stock market. I learned how the stock market works. And in fact, the understanding of the stock market, yes, it generated money, but more than that, the knowledge of the stock market is what I sold. I help people trade. I help people set up various portfolios. So it's this intellect that brought a lot of revenue to diversify both in stocks, rental properties, this business, that business. So obviously, the one thing I doubled down on created various streams of income. It's like these content creators we see online, those Twitch streamers. Started as a Twitch streamer, starts meeting celebrities. For some, the president. For instance, they move to politics or business owners. So every single thing, you have to find something at first. Find something once. Find one thing you're good at, then diversify. What's the last one? The last one isn't supposed to be the last one. The last one was supposed to be point two. So point three or point two that I shared was supposed to be point three and point three point four. Is that point two that skipped my mind by some alchemy? How we did it, I completely do not know, but it skipped my mind. How how come? Give me a minute, let me check. Yeah, I found point two. My apologies for that brief interruption, but my magical mind somehow let point two slip. And in fact, had I not taken that step and be open, not insecure, not trying to cut this off or trying to say I'm not susceptible to mistakes, although this was a very unprofessional one, I should have had it written down and placed by the side. Or maybe a teleprompt, or better still, put it in my fucking face and not rely on my magical mind, my infinite intellect. No, but my apologies for that interruption. The whole pause, the whole thinking, the whole looking in the other direction would never had happened if I remembered point two. So point two is ask intelligent questions. Ask yourself, what would have to happen in order for me to believe I'm worthy of this result? Or what would have to happen in order for this result to come? So if it's a financial goal, if it's a financial goal, or if you're trying to optimize your business, what would have to happen in order for me to make $1 million? What would have to happen in order for this channel to go from point A to point C? What will have to happen in order for me to be confident? You can apply this question to all stratas of your life. So this isn't a contextual question. It works and fits in every sentence, every context. This was philosopher Sir Isaac Bacon who said, a prudent question is half solved. The prudent question is half solved or half the wisdom. Prudent question is half solved in this case. Always ask intelligent questions. For most of you, you have done every single thing there is. You have read the books, you've gone to the seminar, you started the business, you've drafted the business plan out of faith. You've done every single thing there is to do of touching life on success. But what would have to happen in order for you to attain this success is the next question. Perhaps you would see that the answer is for you to feel worthy to achieve this success. You would see that the answer is for you to disregard this old garment, disregard this former lifestyle of begging, embody the new consciousness, believe that it is possible, that you don't need to read one more book, you don't need to listen to one more podcast for your goals to materialize. You've done every single thing. You are worthy. You are qualified. Until you can get to that point, guess what? Success will be elusive. In fact, it pisses you off every single day when you go online and see individuals less competent than you are. For you to see someone and discern, someone you've never met, and you quickly discern, I'm better than this guy. He has to advertise his ignorance so much for you to come to that conclusion. If that's the case, someone who's less competent than you is living a life you would never attain. that should indicate you are worthy, you're qualified. So for the sake of time, we'll end it here. And as always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.